So the 12-12 energy was very intense. And obviously, it's not just 12-12, it's the surrounding days. So I have an expert, Sean Wilson, who's a trauma specialist, a hologram healer, which is very cool. And he's going to talk to us about the energy and also about all the holistic healing that he does in his practice. So I'm Deb Peterson. You're watching Balance Your Life, our evolving consciousness. So hi, Sean. Thanks for being with us.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Yeah. So talk to
Yeah,
us about this crazy intense energy that's been coming in.
Yeah, it's been really intense. When my clients keep calling and texting me, going, "What's going on? How come I'm feeling all this stuff?" And I just know the energy is really increasing. And there's a quote that says, "Love brings up anything unlike itself." So consciousness, I look at as love for human beings. And so when the love rises, what does it do? It almost puts like a magnifying glass on all the stuff that we carry. So
Ah,
in that high space of love or intelligence, people's stuff starts to come to the surface because the universe wants everyone to evolve and grow.
okay. So it's a good thing that everything's coming to the surface because then we can heal it, right?
Yes, it's just about now helping people not freak out and not react so much to their stuff and learning how to process and be with it.
Okay. Well, like what kind of things, and how long does this continue? Because we know it started around 12-12, right? A little before
Yeah.
or
I think there's waves. Of course, everyone's at a different point in their process energetically. Some people may feel really beautiful waves of love. Other people will start purging emotional trauma from the past. So everyone's different, but the energy is, the consciousness is increasing very strongly. And that's been happening for a while now.
right. And it has to continue to happen.
It's going to continue, yeah. And if you follow astrology, they'll probably tell you what planets are where and why. I don't get too involved with that stuff. I just understand that human consciousness is about us healing and growing and evolving together, and that means we have to go through things, unfortunately.
Right. Right. So what can I mean, I don't know. I guess people can expect a bunch of stuff to come up. I mean, I can say personally, I know all kinds of crazy stuff has been around and I didn't think about it correlating to the energy until, we said we were going to talk about it today. So it's very interesting. Like when people can look at it in hindsight, at least I am, and say, oh, that's why that was happening. Like stuff that is just beyond people crying and all kinds of discussions and things going on, that just are not normal, I would say.
Yeah. It's hard if you look at everything in a conscious sense or like a logic sense, it's
Right,
really hard because it doesn't make sense.
right,
But if you understand the spiritual path that we're all on, then it really helps. And if you also understand that what's coming up is not you, it's old stuff that parts of you that weren't able to process or weren't able to work through. And
mm,
it's actually a positive thing as it comes up to the surface, is just learning how to be objective to it and not reacting to it, just being with it or just allowing it.
right. So, I mean, I know you work with people with trauma all the time. And
Yes.
so well, tell us like maybe some tips or something. Is there some way to kind of get through this easier or, make it
Yes.
okay.
Yes, first part is, and this is kind of my message, you are not your trauma. So what does that mean?
Right.
That means that the trauma, the pain, emotional pain in you is not you, but it's there to teach you about yourself and about your evolution. So if you can imagine, like, let's say you have sadness or anger coming up in your gut.
Yeah.
Imagine maybe that's a 5-year-old you, or when you were young, you were angry or hurt and just couldn't process it. So that part of you got frozen, got stuck in your computer system, because I call everybody computer systems. And now that part wants to speak, it wants to express itself, it wants to come to the surface.
Mhm.
And usually we go, no, we don't like this feeling, or we try to push it down. But just imagine doing that to a 5-year-old, right? We wouldn't do that. So if you can
Right.
imagine these emotions as little kids in us that need love and need presence, that really helps with processing it and letting it come out.
So like be very kind to yourself and others, I guess would be
Yeah, well, you can actually, what I say is notice where it is in the body first thing. All right,
okay.
where do you feel it and what do you feel? People will say, well, I feel pressure in my chest. Okay, good. So just notice how strong it is, 1 to 10, 10 being the greatest. It's a 5. Okay, good. Now just be with it without trying to get rid of it, without trying to push it away. Just feel it. Notice what happens then. I do this in my sessions and people will be like, oh, I feel better. And it's like, because they're not fighting it. They're not trying to get rid of it. And then you can actually ask it questions. You can ask that pain or that pressure, how old are you? Or what do you need to heal? And we find that these feelings are looking for love. They're looking for comfort. They're looking for something to be able to process what happened to them. And you'd be amazed how many people will be like, oh, I got 4 years old. So now we know that they're, at 4 years old, they experience a trauma that they're still holding on to that they're not aware of that wants to come to the surface.
Interesting. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
great. And then once you kind of, I guess, what I kind of know how your process goes, right? Once you ask it all these questions, then it can be released or
Well, first, I try to keep it simple because we're
Mhm.
not simple, right? Human beings are
Right.
not simple.
Sure.
So
Yeah.
the first part is how you see the trauma or how you react to it will determine how you feel. So first part is understanding it's not you and it's a younger part of you and learning how to accept it and give it love and not get rid of it and shame it.
Right.
Most of us shame our insecurities because we're like, oh my God, I hate this feeling. And they
Mm.
don't realize, would you say that to a 5-year-old? And they go, no, I would never say that to a 5-year-old. Well, that's what's going on here. So they don't realize that.
Okay.
So the first part is learning how to respond to it and create a space for it to begin to heal. That's the first part.
Okay.
Second
That
part
takes,
then is
yeah.
yeah, then the second part is actually going into it and being with it. And sometimes there's a memory there that you can, begin to go into that holds whatever happened to that child where, they're still holding on to the feeling that they had.
So like an initial thing that happened in childhood is what you're saying. Okay.
Yes. And then there's a whole nother part of that because it's never about what happened to you, it's about how you felt. So
Right.
five children can experience the same event and all five of them will have a different experience, a different feeling.
Hmm.
And so that's why it's so individual. So it's not really about what happens to you, it's how you felt because we carry the feelings with us.
Interesting.
And
Okay.
a, and a lot of trauma on the surface are really old traumas that are being triggered from the past. And they just have compounded so much that anything that looks like it triggers it and they have a reaction.
And so that as adults, we're all walking around with that, all the things that
Yeah,
for us,
yeah.
but we're playing
But
it
yeah,
out. Everybody.
exactly. Well, think about it. Imagine someone who has abandonment issues, right? You
Okay.
ever you ever be with someone and then they like something happens very subtle and they start crying or start freaking out because they feel like someone's leaving them and we're like, what's wrong? Nothing even happened. Well, it's because their computer system is anticipating that they're going to get abandoned again because the old trauma isn't healed. So it's like a virus in the system that anticipates the old trauma in the future. It actually projects it forward. And this why people with betrayal and people with hurt, they're always like waiting for the shoe to drop. They're waiting for it to happen because they're still holding on to what already happened that's unresolved.
Makes sense. Yeah. Yeah, and it's a hard way to live. So I
Yeah.
know you can help people heal from this stuff. I mean, that's what your work is. So
Yes, yeah. The first part again is people, it's like a computer. The computer is malfunctioning, right? And
mhm.
inside of us, we have a mind-body computer system that is extremely profound. Um, and when it's malfunctioning, it's like we start freaking out. But when we realize that we're not the computer, we're the consciousness
Mhm.
in the computer, it helps to understand that and help to understand why things happen and why it's happening. It
Yeah,
helps a
we always
lot.
like to know why. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And then that can help just not react and then start to heal and start to work through whatever's there.
So really like trying to be aware of the situation. If that's the wounding, like abandonment or whatever, something comes up, then you have to really consciously be in that moment, is what you're saying, to start to heal.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, because it could just be the mind's, panicking. It's not even the trauma coming up, right? If you think
Yeah.
about Vietnam vets, they're reliving their trauma. Well, how come they're not healing if they're reliving it? They're not. Their system is panicking. It's replaying it out of fear. So there's a big difference between someone having anxiety all the time and then someone working through a trauma from the past that is very core for them. Two different things.
That's interesting. Okay. Yeah. And then what's I guess the final step or what you help people work through from
So
there?
then it's about really helping the person process how they felt, really
Mhm.
letting them feel and express and just process their feelings. And when that happens, a lot of times the system stops being so alerted. Doesn't have this big alert in it. The bug in the system starts to heal and they return back to their normal self.
So you're
And
not
then,
triggered, basically anymore, or less.
yeah, so, yeah. So if someone hurt, like if you step on my foot really hard on purpose, I'm going to get angry.
Yeah.
And guess what happens when I can't express that anger? I swallow how I feel. And
Mhm.
let's say that happens 100 times.
Mhm.
Now all of a sudden I have all these unfelt feelings in me, and people walk near my foot, and I'm like already anticipating they're going to step on my foot.
Yeah.
So, but the anger is there to say, hey, stop. No, I don't like this. It's just the emotions are a messenger of what is telling our system how we feel and they're really important. But when we can't feel them or express them, they store in the body. And over time, they accumulate and create all these issues in us.
Right. That makes sense. Right.
Yeah. So we can release some of these feelings and express some of them. The system goes back to its normal functioning, and we don't have all these issues.
Right. Right. So that's kind of what's going on with the intense energy right now on the planet.
Yeah.
But it's good.
Yeah. Yeah.
Eventually, I mean, the point is to release it. And some people may need the help of you and others who do this work, or, I guess some people can do it themselves.
Yes. Everyone is very different.
Right. Right.
So this is why when there's full moons, right,
Yeah.
hospitals, people just start freaking out because the
Right.
the energy rises, it raises up.
Hmm.
And we're starting to realize as a society, as a culture, that a lot of these issues come from trauma, it comes from pain, and pain is all about evolution. So I would say 90% of mental health is emotional health.
Right. Okay. So do you
Yeah.
want to talk a little bit about your hologram healing? I know it's all related and
Yeah.
brings that even
Yes.
more into the picture. Yeah.
Yeah. So I've been doing trauma work for almost 20 years, a long time.
Wow.
Um, and I did regression hypnosis for a long time, where I brought people back to memories and helped them release trapped emotions and negative belief systems. And about a year ago, someone was doing hologram healing, and I didn't really understand it, but his results were so amazing that I was like, all right, I have to see why he's having such amazing results. And he talked the language that I understood. He talked about core traumas, releasing core traumas, and that they hold a lot of the weight of people's illnesses and stuff like that.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So, and I have my own studies where like 85% of my clients, have sexual trauma, and a lot of the shows on TV, like I'm a Killer, you find that 95% of them have been sexually traumatized. And so these traumas create a lot of pain and hurt. So moving forward, I realized that hologram healing was very powerful. I just didn't understand it. So I started studying it, and then I started practicing it. And then a couple of times I had someone come in with anxiety. I do a session, hypnosis, and it got worse. And then I was like, oh boy, sometimes that does happen.
Right. Now what?
It's like we're trying to bring up the thing that your mind's trying to protect you from. And it's like, so sometimes it can get a little worse before it gets better. But then I was like, let me try this hologram healing. I'm practicing it. It's new. I'll just do 10 minutes for free on you, see what happens. And then people were calling me and going, I had no anxiety last night. I slept 8 hours. I haven't slept 8 hours in 3 years.
Oh,
And I was like, wow, okay. So I, I really didn't understand it, but what I was realizing is that it's kind of cleaner, it's quicker, and it's more direct.
okay. That sounds good.
Yeah, I'm working with the person's energy, their spirit on a higher level, and they're still releasing the emotions, but it's just we're not going into all the mental and physical blocks. We're just going right there and assisting that person release and heal that energy. And it's just, yeah, it's been really powerful, powerful.
Yeah. And that's it. Basically, you're working with the higher self.
Yeah.
Okay. So you just like connect with that and then see what needs to be done.
Yeah, so I say the person's name 3 times. So I'll say, this is the hologram of, and I'll say the person's name 3 times. And then I'll just say, please show me what I don't know to help facilitate the healing of this person. And
Cool.
I immediately start getting like whatever they're holding. Sometimes I'll see tons of anger. Sometimes I'll feel it in my body a little bit. Sometimes I'll feel pressure, anxiety, and I'll say, please show me how to facilitate healing of these emotions.
That's amazing.
Sometimes I'll see them blowing out fire, releasing the. Sometimes their mom will come in and they have to confront somebody. So yeah, it's just so it's the releasing is happening. It's just on a higher level, and it's
Right. And the person's not even consciously aware of it when you're doing it.
no, I mean they usually fall asleep, but yeah,
Right.
they're not usually seeing it. But I don't do the work. I just hold the space for it.
I understand.
And I bring in the divine energy, and then I just assist with helping it out. But yeah, it's such a powerful thing. And we had a guy, Vietnam vet, 20 years of panic attacks, heal in 2 sessions. I mean, every day he had panic attacks.
Wow. I
So
mean,
just really,
really.
really, yeah, really amazing results. And lately it's just been popping off so busy. I've been getting calls like every day, doing sessions
Well, I
every
would
day.
imagine it would catch on like wildfire once people
Yeah.
know about this. I mean, everybody, like you said, everybody's got some kind of trauma, right? Whatever depends on the level
Yes.
that you have. But I mean, you can't go through life and not experience something, right?
Yes, yes.
So,
We had a recent guy with 20 years thing of kidney stones,
oh,
20 years of passing kidney stones. So his wife's a Reiki master. And
yeah.
now he called me. And, if you look up kidney stones, the emotional aspect of it, it's anger. It's bursts of anger creating
Okay.
blocks and creates kidney stones. So I knew that that could be part of it. We did one hologram healing, and he was at a 10 in pain, and he's down to a 1. He has like a 1 pain. He was
That's
so
amazing.
happy. But yeah, with his, it was all like the first 20 minutes, all I saw was him screaming and yelling and just releasing all this anger.
And
And
this is on
I'm
an
like,
energetic level, right? You're not with
yeah,
a person,
no,
just
but no, I'm not even talking to them. I'm
right.
just, my eyes are closed and I see it happening. And I'm like, oh my gosh. And then finally, after, I'm like, is this going to stop? Like, it's that much anger here. But basically, what happened is his family just kept pushing on him what they thought he should do as a living because of fear of financial stability. So he basically, he dismissed his own dreams to listen to them, and just so much bitterness, so much anger.
Oh,
So once that was cleared, and most of it's gone already, he's already now doing his passions. He's already back into drawing. He's back into all this stuff, and he's like so happy. It's just
oh, that's
really,
great.
yeah,
I
it's really,
love
really.
that you're getting the results so fast.
That's the key, right?
That's, yeah,
That's the key. Yeah.
I
I mean,
love
not with everybody. You know how it is. They come to me
yes.
and they're like, "How many sessions after they spent $10,000 at the doctor, 5 years in therapy, and after one session with me, they want everything to be healed?" And it's like,
Yeah, right.
you gotta give it a chance.
Right. A little time, sure. And on the physical level, is the person like going through anything that you're aware of, like before, during, or I mean, I should say during or after the session?
So usually, what I've been getting reports lately is I just worked with a 17-year-old girl. She did say that during the session, she just tears started running out of her eyes, and then she felt this wave of heat and just like energy, and then she fell asleep, and she slept 10 hours that night. And she woke up the next day with no anxiety, and she had anxiety every day.
Oh, this is just amazing. I mean, I
Yeah.
love hearing about all these new healing things. I mean,
Yeah. So that's been the recent, and
yeah,
once in a while I'll get like, certain situations where it doesn't affect it as much, but then sometimes it's about the parents. And I'm like, well,
of course.
yeah,
It's about the parents.
she's pissed at you, and you need to do a session. We have to help set some healthy boundaries because she's getting too much attention from her trauma. So when kids get when kids get rewarded for their trauma, not knowing the parents are doing that because they want to help them, they'll keep doing that. They'll keep saying, well, when I freak out and have a drama thing, I get all this love, so I'm gonna keep doing that. It's a
Right,
subconscious
sure.
thing.
Yeah,
So
makes
yeah, so sometimes we do have to work with the parents and change some things.
right. Wow. Okay. Very cool.
Yeah.
Anything else you want to tell people? Any other tips for the energy or working through things or
I do think that important to understand, like we were talking about the mind model of trauma, like just really understanding that emotions store in the body, not in the brain. They store through the brain, but you feel them in your chest, your stomach, like they store in the body. And so a lot of times people have these body issues and they go to Western medicine, and Western medicine doesn't really acknowledge emotions that much. And they
Right.
put them on all these damn medications, and it makes it worse over time.
Oh,
So it's hard because it's just not out there, so no one really knows about it. But if you're having a lot of trauma and you're getting all these tests done and nothing's showing up, it's probably trauma. And
right,
Western medicine is not going to be able to treat it. So
right.
you may want to go to someone a little bit different to find out what's going on with you.
Absolutely. I mean, people are becoming more aware, I think, over the years, I've definitely seen it. That, yeah, it's not just, you kind of got to do the integrative medicine approach, mix it up a bit. Really.
Yeah, I mean, my mom's a nurse, and when I told her about, my work, she's like, "That's the opposite of what I've been trained. The emotions are only in your brain." And I said, "That's not true." I said, "There's so many studies out there now showing that."
Right.
But then it's like, it makes sense why if you have issues in your gallbladder, they just remove it because no one will say, "Well, hey, maybe you have some anger or frustration that's trapped in that organ that's creating issues," because emotions are just energy. No
Right.
one would say that in Western, but
Of course not. They're just going to take it out. Of course. Yeah.
yeah, in Eastern medicine they would. But the cool thing about what's happening in the world is that these doctors are quitting their practices and they're combining Eastern and Western medicine. It's so
Sure.
powerful.
Yeah, no,
Yeah,
that's great. Right.
yeah,
That's again the integrative medicine. Yeah. And I think
that's right.
people are moving towards it. Well, and I want to say the customer, but people are looking for that. They just, yeah, they maybe don't want to just have a surgery or they don't want to have something just done with pills or whatever. I mean, sometimes they're necessary, of course, you need them, but other times you can work on stuff like this and heal from it. And then it takes away the ailment, right?
Yeah, well, yeah, it's okay if if you're freaking out and you need an antidepressant just for
Sure.
a short period of time, that's understandable. But when these people come to me and they're on seven of them, I'm like, oh
Oh,
my gosh, like it
yeah.
that now it's like we don't even know what's going on. We have to detox you, and they're very addictive, so that it just can be hard. So yeah, the Western hasn't caught up with that. They're still thinking everything's a condition or a label, like, oh, I'm up and down. I'm sad. Oh yeah, bipolar. That's the biggest thing. And it's like, well, maybe they just have trauma. Like it doesn't everything is
Right.
not always
Right.
a
Well,
label.
yeah. Well, I'm so glad you're doing this work so that, people can become aware and there are other options. Everybody in here listening to this can know that there's other
Yeah.
options at least.
Yeah. And I just want to tell you one more example, and
Yeah,
then
absolutely.
you just let me know. I had a woman that had IBS, and this is a big one with gut issues lately.
Okay.
Everyone's having all these gut issues because everything stores in the gut. And so the IBS is really connected to the nervous system. So I just said, what are your nerves like? And she's like, I'm nervous all the time. So
Oh,
that's why I can't digest properly. So we did some work. We did a session. She goes, it's been 4 years and I haven't been able to go to the bathroom regularly. Like it's
oh,
terrible. My life is like a mess. And so
right.
I did one session, 50% better. And she just raved about it, so happy. And yeah, she just held all this nervousness, this stress, and this doubt. And as after that cleared, her body was then able to digest food properly, and she's so much better.
Wow. That's so interesting because I was just talking to someone last night about the same type of issue.
Yep. Yep.
Interesting. That just developed and the doctor can't figure out why. Why is this happening? So,
Yeah. Yeah. When
they're
the
having
nervous
plenty of
system gets
fiber and all this stuff.
Oh, yeah, yeah. When the nervous system gets overregulated, it's not supplement is usually not going to heal it. It's got to be the nervous system has to release stress so it can function properly. Stress will ruin any organ. It will create a lot of issues in its functionality.
That's pretty cool. All right, I'm gonna
Yeah.
have to share this because what are the odds that I'm talking about it last night and then and then here we
Yeah.
are. Hmm.
But that's something no one even considers. Like they don't even consider that. So
Right. I wouldn't have thought of that.
yeah, but it's been like so lately, it's just been right in my face. So I've just been writing this stuff down and, just taking my notes so I can teach and help people understand it because it's not brain science. It's not rocket science.
Right, right.
It's just not taught. That's all. It's just not
Right,
taught.
exactly. Well, I mean, again, hopefully it's all about the awareness, right? Like just keep
Yes.
bringing it out there and
Yes.
I'm doing it. So,
Yeah.
well, this has been amazing. Thank you. Is there
Yeah.
anything else you want to tell us before you go, or anything
Oh
going?
my God, I could talk forever. I mean, I
Oh,
love
feel
talking.
free. I mean, we have a little bit more time left if you want to.
Okay. Yeah, I love this stuff. This stuff to me is I'm just because we're human beings. We're souls. We're
Mhm.
energy.
Right,
And when we look at it from that place versus like a car, right? Western medicine is a little bit, some can be like a car, like, well, let's just take this out and replace it.
right.
When you look at more like, well, what's my lesson here? Why do I experience this in this area,
Yeah.
right? Versus being a victim, it's like, well, what's the lesson? Oh, wow, yeah, I don't really believe in myself, or I don't trust myself. I recently had someone who, in a past life, they abused their power, they abused their abilities,
Okay.
and then this life, they have all this like doubt and fear around power, and it's like, yeah, because you now have to use power correctly, because in the past life you didn't, so you have to earn that back. Being able to use your power in a healthy, loving way, and it's just so profound how these lessons come forward.
Well, right. And every soul has lessons, right? I mean,
Yes, yes.
and
Otherwise,
I know we have a few major ones and then a bunch of minor ones, right? Each person.
yeah, but it's always tied up in the issues. It's like the bigger picture. You look
Yeah.
at the town and then you scroll out and you look at the whole globe and you're like, oh, okay, that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. So fascinating how the whole thing works.
Yeah, I worked with a woman once. She was really interesting. She told me she had past life trauma. And I said, okay, how do you know? And she goes, I just know. I said, okay.
Okay.
So it was a hypnosis session and I put her into a trance. And as soon as we got to the trance part, it was like I did an elevator exercise where I had them basically imagining themselves going down deeper in an elevator. And we got to the subconscious level.
Mm.
And she goes, the guards are here. They're taking away my kids. And she just started crying,
Oh,
so it was a past life. So I just watched because it's almost like it was so ready to come out. I mean, I didn't do any suggesting, nothing.
yeah.
And basically her kids got taken away, they got killed, they got burned in a past life, and she just felt so much guilt.
Mm.
And after that happened, I said, we're gonna bring your kids in, as bring their spirits in. And she cried and said sorry. And after that day, she said, I had my whole life I had guilt. I never knew where it came from. And after that session, I realized that that's where it came from and it's gone. And it was just really powerful.
That is amazing. I mean, a lot of things we know are tied to past lives.
Yes, yes.
Well, for those of us who believe in past lives, first you got to get to that step, right?
Yeah, I don't even believe in them. I just know they're true because of all
Yeah.
the years
Okay.
of doing. But yeah, if you don't believe in past lives, go to YouTube and look up "Surviving Death."
Mm.
It's episode. It's like "Surviving Death" episode 7, reincarnation, and a kid about 7 years old comes in and says, "Mommy, I was some pilot person in a past life. He knew the name of the plane. He knew his name, and he knew where he died, and he was 5 years old." And
Ooh.
they went and looked it up, and it was proven
Yeah, there's
factual.
a lot of that. I know there's a lot of that on you could really check it out. So yeah, to me, that's proof.
Yeah, so all the skepticisms, I always tell them, go check it out. And
Right.
the cool thing is that his parents were Christian, so they didn't believe in it. And
No.
he was like, yeah, we were taught not to believe in that. And he goes, but after this, he goes, I definitely believe in it. He goes, because
Mhm.
experience trumps knowledge. When you know something and you see it, it trumps what you're told or what you're taught.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So
Very true. I know lots of
yeah.
cool stories. Lots of great
Cool
work you're
stuff.
doing. Keep
Yeah,
doing
we could do it. We could do another podcast on just case examples. I've had,
right.
15 years of them.
Wow. Okay. Well, we'll definitely do that then. Yeah.
Yeah, cool.
All right. Any final tips for everybody?
Yeah, be gentle, be easy on yourself. Like, we're all going through stuff. The less you react, the easier it is. Just be kind to yourself. Take care of yourself.
Yeah.
The
Way to
whole
live.
purpose of life is to find you, to find yourself.
Okay. That's excellent. Yeah. We got to remember that.
Yeah,
Sometimes we're a little too tough, right, on ourselves. Oh,
very tough on ourselves.
right.
Yeah,
All right, Sean, thanks again for being with us. And
you're
maybe we'll
welcome.
have you back to talk about more case studies next time then.
Yeah, that would be fun. It was great chatting with you.
Okay, you too. All right, take care.
Bye.
And we'll see you next time.